So guys, now it's time to cut out the side extension. After cutting the sleeve, the next piece to cut is the side extension. So in cutting out the side extension, I cut out 2 pieces out of my leftover fabrics, which are here, because this is going to be on both sides, so I need to cut out 2 of the side extension. So in cutting this out, I will measure the side of my garment, because this will be attached from the waistline downwards to the hemline. So I will have to confirm the measurement I have from the waistline downwards to the hemline, including the hem allowance. So I'm taking the measurement from the hem line. So from the hem line to the waist point, I have 44.5 inches. So I will be adding extra 1 inch to this in order to make it 45.5, because the extension must not start exactly on the waist point. Now I have this in 2 pieces, then I will be folding the 2 pieces into half. Then I have this side as the center. Then I will measure out the length of the extension, so which is going to be the measurement I took from the waist point to the hemline plus extra 1 inch. That is 45.5 inches, and here is the point. Then I will make this a straight line. Okay, so now that I have this, the next step is to measure out the wideness of my extension. The standard measurements for the wideness of the extension is about 10 inches. So you can make yours more than 10 inches or lower than 10 inches. So you can make this more than 10 inches, most especially if you want to pleat the side of the garment. Okay, you can have it up to 12, 13, 15 or even 20 inches. Okay, it all depends on the number of pleats you want to have on the garment. Also, you have to put this at the back of your mind that the wider the side extension, the wider the garment will be on the hemline. So which means if you want your garment to be very wide, the idea of an extension by the side of a male garment is to allow free movement while putting on the garment, so that the garment will not be struggling with the legs. So the wider the extension, the wider the garment. That is just the formula. So for the fabrics I have here, I have about 6.5 inches. Okay, so I have 6.5 inches here. So I will be taking this as the upper part, and this is going to be the lower part. But for the lower part, what I need is the seam allowance I have on the garment, because this is going to be a continuous line, like a diagonal line from the waistline downwards to the hemline. I'm not taking this on a straight line. So from the hemline here, which is the line I drew out, that is where the extension is stopping. So definitely this is going to be the waistline. So on the waistline, I will measure 2 inches. So the 2 inches is the seam allowance for joining this to the bodice. So which means I don't have any extra here for the waistline. So the next step is to connect the 2 inches point to this point. I'm connecting this to this point purposely because I want it to be 6.5 inches wide. If I don't want it to be 6.5 inches wide, if I want it to be 5 inches wide, don't forget this is on fold. So if I measure 5 inches, that is 10 inches in total. And if I measure 6.5, that means it is 13 inches in total. I have it on fold. So let's assume I want to use 10 inches and half of it is 5 inches. So which means I will be connecting from the 2 inches point to the 5 inches point. Okay, so the connection is from the waistline to the wideness of the extension. So now I will be making use of my metal ruler, which is very long enough to connect this together. So guys, now I have my line connected. As you can see, can you see what I have? I have a diagonal line from the waistline downward to the hemline. So which means the wideness of the garment will be increasing gradually from the waistline downward to the hemline. So now I will be cutting this out. So guys, now I have this cut out, and this is what I have after cutting. I have the 2 pieces cut at the same time. Can you see what I have? So this is the first piece and this is the second piece. A piece for one side and the other one for the other side. Now that I have the side extension cut out, then I will proceed in cutting out the collar. So guys, now it's time to draft the pattern for the collar. In drafting the pattern for the collar, I have my pattern paper taped on my pattern table, as you can see. Okay, so here is the lower part of my collar, and this is going to be the center of my collar. So this side is going to be the center back, so I label this as the center back. Then the line I drew here is going to be the neckline, so I will label this as the neckline as well. Okay, so this is the neckline and this is the center back. So which means when I'm cutting my collar, my fabrics is going to be unfolded by this side. Okay, so the first thing to do is to measure what I have on the neckline area. So you have to do this on your fabrics because you are attaching the collar to the fabrics. You don't need to take the measurement on the pattern. It is advisable you take this directly on the fabric. So here is my fabric. This is the shoulder line, as you can see. This is the center. This is the center front and this is the center back. So what I will be doing is I will make this front to front and back to back. So I'll fold it like so. So now I will start taking the measurement from the back point to the front point. Okay, this can be done in 2 ways. You can decide to take the back measurement separately and the front separately, or take the measurement together. But as for me, I prefer taking the measurements together. So I will start taking the measurement from the notch point I have here on the back side. Then I will follow the shape I have on the neckline area. I have to do this because the collar will be attached to the neckline. So here I have 7 inches for both front and the back neckline. So guys, now I've taken the measurement I have on the neckline and it's 7 inches. Okay, so in total that means I have 14 inches because I have my fabrics unfold when I was taking the measurement. So I need the 7 inches to be inserted on the neckline. So from the center back, I will insert the 7 inches, which I have here. Okay, then from this 7 inches point, I will measure half of an inch forward. You can either extend this a little bit or measure out your half of an inch directly. So I'm extending this a little bit upward. Then I will measure out half of an inch. Okay, then from the half of an inch point, I will be connecting towards the center of the neckline area with my curve ruler. This is to shape the neckline area because the neckline is not on a straight line, it goes round, so we need to achieve that effect of that round shape. So that is why I'm doing this. So I will be connecting this like so. So this is going to fall around the center of the neckline. Okay, can you see what I have now? So the straight line I have from here, from the 7 inches point to somewhere around here, is no more in use. So this is the shape of my neckline now. Okay, so the next step is to insert the height of the collar. Okay, that is how high I want the collar to be. Now I will be inserting the collar height of 1 inch. The 1 inch is a standard measurement, and if you want yours to be wider than 1 inch, you can as well add to it. You can make it 1.25 or 1.5 inches, but the least you can use is 1 inch for the collar. So in this tutorial, I will be making use of 1 inch height for the collar, and I will be needing half of an inch for the lower parts and half of an inch for the upper parts. That makes it 2 inches. So instead of measuring 1 inch, I will include my seam allowance at the same time, so I will be measuring 2 inches. And you need to take note of this. I'm not taking the measurement from the straight line as I said earlier. Now I've moved the neckline area higher by half of an inch, so I will start taking the measurement from the half of an inch point. So I will take this up by 2 inches. Okay, so I will continue measuring my 2 inches following the shape I have on my neckline. Okay, so now I will be connecting the dotted lines together. Okay guys, now I have this connected properly. Then the next step is to extend this line upward to get to the 2 inches points. So guys, after extending this upward like so, the next step is to reduce the measurement I have on the neckline, purposely because the collar will not get to the center front. So I have to move this away from the center front. So it also depends on your preference. You can make it far away by half of an inch or by 1 inch. So I will be making use of 0.75. So from this point on the straight line I have on the neckline, I will measure 0.75 forward. So I'm taking this measurement towards the center back. So this is what I have for the 0.75. So this is the distance I will be having between my collar and the center front. Okay, so if you want it far away more than this, so all you need to do is to increase the measurement I used here. I used 0.75. you can use 1 inch, 1.25 or 1.5 inches. And if you want it closer than this, so which means you will have to reduce the measurement I used. So we can use about 0.5, 0.375 or 0.25. Now I have this marked out. This is where my collar will stop at the front side. It now depends on the shape you want for your collar. You can decide to maintain the same measurement you have here, then connect this like so. So which means for the collar I will be having a slant line. It's not going to be on a perfect straight line. So this is one out of so many designs you can create for your collar. Can you see what I have? So this is one. Also, if you want to have a perfect straight line for your collar, which means the measurement you have from this point to this point to the 0.75 I measured is what you will be inserting from this point to this point as well. So what I will be doing is I will confirm the measurement I have here from the center back to this place, I have 6.25 because I've taken 0.75 away from the 7 inches I measured out. So on the collar height, I will insert the same 6.25. that is if I want the collar to be on a straight line. Then I will take it up like so. Can you see what I have? So that is if I want this to be on a straight line. But if I want to give it a shape to be on a slant line, that is when I will go for the previous one. Also, you can decide to make this a mandarin collar. If you want to make this a mandarin collar, all you need to do is to connect from this edge to the 0.75 point I measured out in a curvy manner. Can you see what I have? So I will just give it a curvy effect. So instead of having it on a straight line, I'll have a curve like so. Can you see what I have? Okay, so but as for me, I will be going for the first shape, which is a slant line. So now the pattern is ready, and I will clean up the line I'm not using. So I'm not using this, I'm not using the curved line. So guys, now I've cleaned up the lines I'm not using. So the next step is to add my seam allowance. But before adding my seam allowance, I need to move the upper part of the collar away from the center front, because this is the exact measurement for the center front. So for this reason, I will take this backward by 0.25. So from this point, so you can see what I have, then I will reconnect like so. Okay, then I will clean up the previous line. Okay, so now that I have this done, the next step is to add my seam allowance at this point. Don't forget, I've added my seam allowance on the neckline and the upper part of the collar. Then I need to add extra half of an inch of seam allowance on this edge. So I will take this forward by half of an inch like so. Then on the neckline as well, I will take this forward by half of an inch. Then I will connect the 2 points together. Okay, then I will extend this line to meet the seam allowance line. So likewise this. So far so good guys, the collar pattern is ready. Then I will proceed in cutting this out, and I will be showing you how to cut it out on your fabrics. So guys, now it's time to cut out my fabrics using the pattern I drafted. So here is a collar pattern. So I have my fabrics on fold like so, and the center of the back, which is the center back, is going to be on the folded side of my fabrics like so. Then I will pin the two together. So guys, now I have my fabrics pinned together with my pattern, and this is what I have after pinning. So the next step is to cut out my fabrics. For this, I don't need to add any seam allowance because all my seam allowances has been added on the pattern. So guys, now that I have this cut out, I will notch the center. So I'll place notches on the center, the upper part, and the lower part. Okay, then this is what I have. You can see the shape. So the curvy side is the neckline area. So by the time I open it up, I will have it like so. Can you see what I have? Now I will be cutting out another piece, which is going to be the facing for the collar. But in this case, the facing is going to be a little bit shorter in height than the main collar. So what I will be doing is I will be working on the pattern before cutting it out. So on my pattern, I will measure 1/8 of an inch downward. So I will take this measurement all around the upper part of the collar and I will trim it off. So now I'm connecting the dotted lines together using the same curve ruler I used in drafting the pattern. So now I will be trimming off the 1/8 of an inch. So guys, this is what I have after trimming off my pattern. So now I will be using this to cut out the facing for the collar. So guys, now this is what I have for the facing after cutting it out. This is the main collar and this is the facing. Then I labeled this as F so that I will be able to differentiate between the two. So this is the facing and this is the main collar. This is the facing and this is the main collar. Then I placed notches on the neckline area so that I'll be able to indicate that easily as well. So where I have markings is the neckline area.